This is Twit.
Micah and Rosemary. First, I'd like to shout out a big thank you to all the hosts for many years of listening. I appreciate all the tips, tricks, and apps that have been shared from many a show. I listened to your latest podcast today while out on a walk, and I have got to ask this question concerning my HomePod Mini. I've tried to connect it to 3 different TVs. On all 3, the sound from the HomePod will not sync with the picture playing. I have one of the latest Apple TVs running the current software. I've even tried to Bluetooth it directly to the television itself, and it's still a bit off. I just keep thinking I'm missing a setting somewhere, hoping one of you has an idea what I could be missing. Again, thanks so much for keeping us iOS people up to date. Cheryl. All right. So I have a lot of experience with this. I'm curious, Rosemary may have some experience with this too, but I have used HomePods as a TV option for quite some time, as a TV audio option for quite some time now. And I used to have trouble with this. The first thing, believe it or not, that I'm going to recommend is to go into the settings on your Apple TV. And I believe it's in the, I wish I had an Apple TV set up. I just moved, so there's still a lot of stuff I have to get done. But in the settings under, I believe it's like audio output or something similar, there's a setting that says audio sync. Go in there and make sure that if you've set up that sync before, reset it, turn it off, cancel it, delete it, make that sync go away. Then what you're going to do is you're going to unplug that HomePod or those HomePods and wait like 10 seconds, plug it back in, go into your Apple TV, change the audio output to the HomePod. Don't do the audio sync thing yet, and try playing it that way. If it is synced, then you've solved the problem, because that was the problem that I had. I used the audio sync feature where it'll play this tune, boom, 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 and then the phone can kind of tell how the audio. That's really meant for non-Apple devices. So if you're using some sort of Bluetooth speakers or other AirPlay-like speakers, and the sync isn't working, that is where that's useful. When it comes to the Apple devices themselves, I found that it's best to not use that audio sync feature, that it introduces complications. My other suggestion is to consider the placement of your Wi-Fi router or routers. Having a strong Wi-Fi connection close to where your TV and your HomePods or HomePod is or are is going to be helpful in making sure that you are able to get the sync how you need it. The quicker that they can kind of communicate back and forth without latency, the better. So those are 2 things to keep in mind when it comes to the audio syncing properly.
Yeah, the only other thing I would say is also be mindful of the placement of your HomePods. Because if you've ever been to a concert and you've thought, God, that singer's out of time with the music, it's probably because the singer was behind the speaker and didn't have an in-ear monitor. So they were behind the speakers. So sound had to travel from the speakers in front of them back to their ears, at which point they then start singing, and then that has to be transmitted out as well through their microphone, and that causes a delay. I found if my HomePods are next to or behind my television, this is fine. I don't have a problem. If I move the HomePods over to my sofa, then I do actually end up with an issue. However, some apps, if you swipe down while something is playing and go to audio, some apps have the ability to do a little audio offset where they can adjust the audio offset and they can either bring it forward or push it back. This can get a bit fiddly, so I wouldn't recommend doing this, but every so often I've ripped something from DVD and like the audio just ends up being like 10 seconds off for some reason, like halfway through. And so that's a good way to fix that, if that is the problem.
All right. So those are some options for you to check out when it comes to solving audio sync issues.
Hey, if you liked that clip, well, there's so much more to get by joining Club Twit. You can watch all of iOS Today, where we cover all things iOS, tvOS, HomePodOS, watchOS, and so much more. It's all the apps, all the tips and tricks, and everything with Rosemary Orchard and me, Micah Sargent. Join Club Twit at twit.tv/clubtwit to see all of iOS Today.